I'm so sorry, Luna. As soon as he got home, Asher prostrated himself on the spot. And then he screamed something terrible. I got my girlfriend, who's 15 years younger, pregnant, so please let's get a divorce. What? I had no clue what Asher was talking about. Cheating was bad enough, but to get someone pregnant? Asher handed me the divorce papers with a look of shock on my face. My fists were trembling with anger. So, you're in a hurry to get divorced because of that? Fine, but what about the kids? The kids. I can't afford to take care of them. Asher tried to look as sorry as possible, but it just seemed insincere to me. What are you saying? After all that's happened, it's hard for me to take care of the kids too. I couldn't help but tear up. My head was a total mess. In an emotional state, I scribbled on the divorce papers and threw them hard at Asher. Here's your divorce papers. I'm taking Stella with me. What? Take them all. That's impossible, because these kids. I paused for a moment. I didn't even want to say what came next. My name is Luna Davis, 30 years old. I live with my husband Asher, who is 5 years older than me, and our 4 daughters. Some might think it's a lot of kids for these times, but 3 of them are Asher's from another relationship. Asher lost his previous wife to illness. We met some time after his previous wife had passed away. It was by chance, at a park nearby. At that time, I was living with my parents and taking our family dog for walks was part of my daily routine. During these walks, I often saw 3 sisters at the park. They seemed to be around elementary school age. They would play with my dog, which led to me occasionally having casual conversations with the girls. One day, a man approached us. My daughters always seem to bother you. He appeared to be slightly older than me, with kind eyes. His kind eyes were striking. Oh, are you their father? Your daughters are adorable. Well, far from it. They're quite the handful at home. The man laughed easily. This man was Asher. Asher and his 3 daughters lived in the neighborhood and often came to the park. As we continued to bump into each other at the park, we started to have more conversations. During these conversations, Asher shared that he had been widowed due to his wife's illness. It might be a lie to say it doesn't hurt, but seeing the kids being so innocent and carefree helps me feel safe too. Asher said, smiling a bit sadly. I wanted to somehow cheer him up. I was starting to develop those feelings. And naturally, Asher and I were getting closer. Eventually, he asked me to go out with him on the assumption that we would get married. Honestly, I can't deny that I hesitated a bit at that time. I liked Asher, but it was my first marriage, and I had never raised children before. Could I really handle suddenly having 3 kids? But more than that, I wanted to help Asher. After much thought, we got married. Fortunately, the 3 daughters were sweet and adorable, and our life together was going well. Time passed, and I got pregnant with Asher's child. Soon, our child, Stella, was born, and our family grew to 6. I thought we would continue to have happy days ahead. But that's what I thought. I never imagined it would all fall apart so quickly. 3 years after we got married, Stella turned 2. The older 3 daughters doted on her. First, there was Violet, the 10-year-old eldest. Being the oldest, she was very responsible. Then came Arya, the 8-year-old middle child, who was a bit of a mischief maker. The 3rd daughter, Layla, is 6 years old. She's still quite the clingy one. And then there's the 4th daughter, Stella, mine and Asher's child. Stella is a bit delayed in speaking and can only say simple words like mama and dada, but she has such expressive facial expressions and is incredibly adorable. Since we both work, Stella, who is still 1, goes to daycare during the day. The 3 daughters are in elementary school, so after they get out, we have them in an after-school care program until we finish work. With things being a bit unsafe these days, and worrying about leaving the kids alone at home, we found a good after-school program near Asher's workplace and decided to enroll them there. Asher, finishing work earlier, often picks them up from the program. There are some really nice staff members there, Violet and the others have really taken to them. They seem like college students, but they're very responsible and more reliable than some employees," Asher said, looking unusually happy. "I've been there a few times myself and remember thinking it seemed like a well-run facility, and I felt reassured that it was a safe place. It's great to have found a good place for them. With 4 kids, there are issues like education costs to think about. For us, wanting to work as long as possible, the after-school program has been a godsend." It was during those busy days. Asher and the older 3 daughters started coming home later and later. At first, they'd say they went out for dinner after the program or to see a movie, but the frequency of these outings gradually increased. I found it endearing at first. But as it happened more and more, I started to feel left out. I understand that Asher and the daughters are close. Asher is good at comforting the kids after I scold them or giving them surprise gifts, really capturing their hearts. After all, it had been just Asher and the daughters living together after his previous wife passed away, so I get that they have a strong bond. But now, Stella and I are part of the family too. Seeing Asher and the 3 daughters go out and have fun without us was frustrating. I mentioned it to Asher, but he just said, okay, without really listening. Then he'd quickly end the conversation, saying, "I've got to make a work call," and lock himself in his room. Asher always seemed to enjoy those calls. Work calls. That had been the case lately. When I'd call Asher for something, he'd hastily hang up the phone. I was feeling something was off but tried not to think too deeply about it. Then, one day happened. Once again, Asher and the kids came home late from the after-school program, stopping somewhere first. They said they had eaten dinner, but it was still quite late. What could they possibly be doing for so long? When I asked Asher, he dodged the question, so I decided to directly ask Arya, the middle child who was nearby. "Hey Arya, you guys have been coming home late recently, what have you been up to?" "Just eating with my sisters and talking," Arya replied with a mischievous grin, giggling. "Just playing with Violet and the others like usual, huh?" It's endearing, but the fact that it's just the 3 of them plus Asher playing together feels like Stella is being left out, and it doesn't sit well with me. I gently said, "Next time, let's play when Stella is around too." Okay. At that moment, Arya's non-committal response raised my suspicions. It seems my intuition wasn't off. After that, the 3 daughters began to include Stella in their play. But even so, she wasn't part of the after-school play, only joining in pretend play in the kids' room during weekends. Stella can barely talk yet, but at least I can keep an eye on her inside the house, so there shouldn't be any worries. That's what I thought, but then an incident happened. "Mommy!" Violet called out to me energetically. "What's wrong?" I rushed to the kids' room to find Stella crying. All 3 said in unison, "Stella fell down." Stella is a bit behind in her development and had only recently started walking. It's not impossible for her to lose her balance and fall. However, this kind of thing has happened a few times while playing with the 3 daughters. Concerned, I thought about asking them to play in the living room where I can keep an eye on them. "Violet, you know." Mom. "Today after daycare, I'm gonna play with my big sisters again." "Oh, is that so, eh? Sisters?" I felt something was off. Violet is the eldest, so she doesn't have an older sister. Who could that be? Sister implies a girl older than Violet. Middle schooler? High schooler? Or maybe. I felt an indescribable unease deep in my chest. "Hey, who exactly is this sister you're talking about?" "A sister is a sister." Violet became serious and quickly left the room. Something was definitely not right. A family outing without me and Stella. Asher making happy calls, claiming it's work. The mysterious sister. It all seemed connected somehow. As time passed, things got even worse. Asher couldn't be separated from his smartphone. Always grinning at the screen or on the phone with someone. He insists they're just friends, but the tone of his voice is clearly too cheerful. "Hey, Asher. I've been saying it's dinner time. Are you on your phone again?" Frustrated with Asher's obsession, I peeked at the screen. I only saw it for a moment, but I definitely saw heart stamp. Hey, what are you doing? Don't just look at someone's stuff like that. That's a violation of privacy. Suddenly, Asher was furious. He hardly ever gets this angry. This is getting more suspicious. Or rather, isn't this pretty much confirmation? I'll catch him in the act. I came up with a plan. A few days later. As usual, Violet said, we're gonna grab some food after school care. All right, just don't come home too late. I said it with a smile and then added, oh, right. I smiled and added, oh, right. Violet, you wanted to play games on my phone, right? You can use it today. Really? Violet beamed innocently. Violet's phone is a kid's phone, so it doesn't have any apps. That's why she sometimes borrows mine or Asher's smartphone to play game apps. But lately, Asher won't let anyone touch his phone, and I often need mine for work, so I can't lend it to her for long. Maybe that's why she always seems envious of adults with smartphones. She must be planning to play a lot of game apps today. I watched Violet head to school, excited. After that, my day was just like any other. In the evening, it was just Stella and me for dinner, and I did some chores. And I waited for the four of them to come home. They've been coming home late every night lately. Being dragged around by Asher, the kids must be exhausted. It's a holiday tomorrow, but I wished they wouldn't overdo it. Before we knew it, all four of them came back, and in the hustle and bustle, it was suddenly bedtime. Around noon the next day, I finally realized I hadn't gotten my smartphone back from Violet. Violet, can you give me back my phone? Yeah, thank you. The games were fun. Violet handed me the smartphone, and I smiled gently. Then, waiting until night when everyone had settled down to sleep, I took out the smartphone. Actually, I had set up a recording app on this smartphone. It was programmed to record audio at a certain time. This way, I could find out who they were talking to and what was being said. I played the recording on the app, listening carefully. Then, besides my daughter's voices, I heard another woman's voice. Not a child's voice, but that of a young woman. Could it be an affair? Where did they meet? I turned up the volume to listen more closely. Then, a familiar voice came through. This voice is. The identity of the voice became clear. It was someone I knew. Moreover, they were having an intimately sweet conversation. Listening made me feel embarrassed on their behalf. I could hear my children's voices in parts of the recording too. The location might have been a game arcade. The situation is becoming clear. It seemed like they were keeping the kids entertained with games while enjoying each other's company. To openly cheat in front of one's own daughters, what was he thinking? I was filled with a queasy feeling, more than anger, as if I had just seen something unidentifiable. That's enough. I don't want to hear anymore. I tried to close the app. Then, I noticed there was another audio file. I must have accidentally recorded at a weird time. I played it out of curiosity. What this is? An unexpected truth was revealed. After a while, I hardly ever saw Asher anymore. He started going out again without saying where he was going after I pointed out it wasn't good to drag the kids around late. He would come back home in the middle of the night after that. Of course, I was asleep by then, so there was no chance to talk. However, there was no doubt Asher was cheating. The only question was when to confront him with the evidence. That's what I was thinking about one night. After putting the kids to bed and finishing up the housework, I turned off the lights in the living room. Asher hadn't come back yet, but I was hitting my limit for sleep. Just as I thought that, the front door quietly opened. Peeking down the hallway in the dark, I could see Asher coming in with a young woman. Sneaking around for what purpose? I quickly turned on the light, and the two of them looked shocked. You're the daycare student worker, Mia Brown, right? Mia backed away when I called her out. Right, Asher's affair partner was the 20-year-old college student working part-time at the daycare where we always leave our 3 daughters. I had seen her face a few times before. It never crossed my mind that she could be the other woman. I had assumed it was a woman from some totally unrelated night job, or maybe someone he met through flirting or something. And to think they met at a game arcade, including our kids. That wouldn't seem odd to anyone seeing them. Our daughters were just a cover. Lately, it seemed like their relationship had gotten to the point where they couldn't easily break it off, as they started meeting without the kids. Considering Asher's recent panic, there must have been an emergency. Probably, Mia had started saying something like leave your wife, or maybe. As I was thinking about all this, Asher immediately fell to his knees. I'm so sorry, Luna. You don't need to perform like that. So, what exactly were the two of you up to today? Before I could finish, Asher yelled something horrifying. Please divorce me, because my girlfriend 15 years younger is pregnant. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. As if cheating wasn't enough, he got her pregnant. Stunned, Asher handed me the divorce papers. My fists were shaking with rage. I told myself to stay calm and then started speaking. So, that's what happened. You're in a rush to get a divorce because of that. Fine, but what about the kids? The kids? I can't handle them. I just can't take care of them. Asher said, trying his best to look sorry, but it just seemed forced. What do you mean? After all that's happened. It's hard for me to take care of Violet and the others too. I couldn't help but tear up. My mind was a total mess. I scribbled on the divorce papers and threw them at Asher with all my might. Here's your divorce papers. I'm taking Stella with me. What? Take them all. I can't, because these kids. I took a breath and then said. Stella was being bullied by them. Unbelievable. Right, because of a mistake setting up the recording app, it recorded voices the next morning too. I was shocked when I listened to it. The 4 daughters were playing in their room as usual. But the 3 older ones were bullying Stella. They were saying, Stella is in the way. She can't do anything. And go over there, come on, and then there was a sound like something falling. They must have pushed or done something to make Stella fall. The sound of the fall might have been Stella sitting down hard. Immediately, Stella started crying as if a fire had been lit. I could hear Violet and Arya saying, boy, what a hassle, and Layla laughing. Stella crying while playing with the 3 of them wasn't just a coincidence. To gang up and be mean to Stella, who can hardly speak yet, is unforgivable. Even though they're just kids, it's unforgivable. Come on, it's just kids being kids, right? Why are you taking it so seriously? Excuse me. I had intended to keep our conversation quiet, considering the kids were asleep, but I couldn't help raising my voice. Asher wore a mocking expression. The apologetic demeanor he first showed was just for show, after all. He couldn't hide his oozing arrogance. Whatever, but right now, I want to start a new life with Mia. So, I don't have time to think about you guys. Mia, seemingly in agreement with Asher, hesitantly began to speak. I want to raise the child I'm having with the man I love, Asher. I was shocked when I found out I was pregnant. But I've thought about it seriously, so I'm gonna drop out of college and get married. I'd be happy if you could watch over us warmly. There's no way I could watch over this situation warmly. Is Mia out of her mind? I felt dizzy. Then, who's that? Daddy, came the voice of our youngest daughter, Layla, from the bedroom. It seems the commotion woke up the kids. Anyway, you need to leave today. And quick. I pushed Mia out forcefully while she was still trying to say something and glared at Asher. Then, without making eye contact with me, Asher confidently walked into the bedroom. I could hear Layla's happy voice. She was completely attached to him, even though he's such a father. Asher doesn't care about the kids at all. The next morning, Asher had apparently hurried off to work, and the room was empty. Unforgivable. I couldn't stop the anger that bubbled up afterward. Not just the affair, but also neglecting the kids. I have to get a divorce and demand alimony. While I was laying out toast and salad for breakfast, I casually mentioned to our eldest daughter, Violet. So, you were calling Ms. Brown from the daycare big sis, huh? Violet looked uncomfortable. Yeah. Dad said we have to get along with any woman he wants to be close to first. We all call her big sis. That's what Dad told us to do. What? I was shocked by Violet's words. Was this not the first time Asher used the kids? Having them call someone big sis was his habitual tactic. How many people had he done this with? It hit me then. That's right. Even when Asher and I first met, Violet and the others had approached me first. That wasn't a coincidence. It was all orchestrated by Asher. I was stunned. That our meeting was all calculated. Wait. An even more unpleasant thought crossed my mind. Could it be that Violet and the others bullying Stella was also Asher's doing? The horrifying thought made me shake my head involuntarily. Seeing my face, Violet looked at me and said worriedly, "Are you mad? The mom before you always got mad because Dad was friendly with other women." What? Violet's unexpected remark froze me. Because he was friendly with so many other women, the previous mom was always angry, and that made her sick. That means? I had heard that Asher's previous wife died of illness. But if Violet's story is true, it suggests that the illness was triggered by the stress from Asher's repeated infidelities. I was chilled by the dreadful hypothesis. Asher's infidelity would likely never end. If I stayed with him, I would continue to suffer from his affairs and accumulate stress. I had to leave him as soon as possible. I resolved in my heart. Eventually, Arya and Layla woke up and appeared in the living room. I sat Stella in her high chair and served breakfast to Arya and Layla as well. They all bit into their toast with appetite. In moments like these, they're just normal kids. Though they cling to Asher and follow his commands like puppets, they are, in a way, victims too. My thoughts wandered as I contemplated this. A few days later, I arranged for a meeting at a coffee shop. At home, the kids might overhear our conversation again. Fortunately, my parents, who knew the situation, were looking after them. I didn't want to drag the kids into the ugly fight between adults. I'll get straight to the point. I agree to the divorce. But, I want alimony for your affair and child support for Stella. When I said this, Asher and Mia booed. Give us a break. We have to raise Mia's child from now on, you know? Exactly. We want to use all of his money for our child's future. We want to provide a proper education. Mia, sitting back arrogantly, looked very different from before, quite presumptuous. I couldn't hold back and raised my voice. What are you talking about? That's my line. What about the 4 kids? Them. To be honest, I'm not interested anymore, so you take care of them. Unbelievable. I trembled with anger. Children aren't tools. I forced myself to calm down and brought up what I wanted to know. Whether he had ordered our 3 daughters to bully Stella. Asher, now completely unapologetic, spoke lazily. Is that what this is about? The reason they were meeting Mia in the first place was just a convenient cover since they were coming back from the after-school program. Adding little Stella to the mix meant someone had to take care of her, and she was in the way. I just told them to play among the 3 of them and keep Stella out. Kids are easy, keep them happy, and they'll do anything you say. What happened next was all on them. Not my fault. So he directed it, yet blamed the children. I hadn't known Asher had such an ugly nature. It seemed hopeless to expect any change of heart. I casually took out my smartphone and showed them an email I had prepared. I'm thinking of sending this. It was an email addressed to Asher's company, Mia's part-time job at the daycare, and her college. The email detailed their relationship thoroughly. Asher and Mia turned pale upon seeing it. With one push of a button, it'll be sent to everyone. Isn't email convenient? Wait, please! Anything but that. Please stop! They panicked amusingly. I'd rather not resort to drastic measures. But it seems neither of you have any remorse for what you've done, so it's only fair. As I calmly stated this, Asher and Mia grimaced. After all the harm you've done to me and the kids, thinking you could just walk away without making amends. Unforgivable. Show at least some sincerity." Overwhelmed by my words and determination, Asher reluctantly agreed to pay the alimony and child support. Mia was crying and apologizing, but it was too late for tears. My heart had completely cooled off. But there was one more issue that needed to be resolved. After that, the discussions went smoothly, and the divorce papers were successfully filed. Since the house we lived in was a rental, I decided to return to my parents' house with Stella. There was a problem that had been bothering me, but it seemed like it was going to work out. It was about the 3 daughters, Violet, Aria, and Layla. They were going to be left in the care of Asher's parents, as per my suggestion. After explaining everything that had happened, I got their consent. I couldn't take them in. Even if they were manipulated by Asher, considering what they did to Stella and the emotional scars Stella received, I couldn't possibly accept them. But leaving them with Asher was also a concern. It became clear through this ordeal that Asher hardly viewed the children with affection, seeing them more as puppets that could be easily manipulated. Moreover, with Mia as their mother, it's doubtful they would be raised properly. Although the daughters were attached to Asher and wanted to live with him, I pleaded with my mother-in-law to take care of them. She seemed to have been worried about her grandchildren all along. Both in-laws are still healthy, and having sensible adults around them in the long run would be better for the girls. I hope they grow up to be decent individuals. Mia, despite opposition from those around her, dropped out of college to marry Asher. However, Asher's infidelity did not stop. He apparently made a move on one of Mia's friends from the wedding, a college student, and is already embroiled in a messy divorce drama despite being newlyweds. He keeps ensnaring women, fathering children, and then using those children to lure new victims. There are truly dreadful people in this world. But there is retribution for such actions. Due to Asher's repeated inhumane behavior, everyone around him has drifted away. Parents, friends. And now, due to the leak of this incident, he seems to be isolated at work too. I wasn't the one who spread it, but it ended up becoming widely known. Bad news does spread fast. Mia was also disowned by her parents and lost her friends. The two of them, now lonely, had nothing but to hurl insults at each other. A pitiful end for miserable people. As for me, with the support of my parents, I'm living happily with Stella. Stella, perhaps because of the harassment from the 3 daughters, would suddenly start crying at times. She was also delayed in her speech, which worried me greatly. However, as time passed and our environment stabilized, her mental state seemed to improve. She cries less, smiles more, and has become more talkative. She's now energetically attending kindergarten. She seems to have made a lot of friends and looks happy every day. I'm truly relieved that I left Asher. And just recently, I acquired a difficult certification. I have started working towards independence. I want to make sure I'm never caught by such a terrifying man again, driven by a strong desire to stand on my own. It's because of that strong feeling. "Mommy, let's play." Stella, with a smile, tugs at my hand. I will continue to fight against anyone who threatens my daughter. I will never let go of this small hand, unlike Asher. I firmly grasp Stella's hand.